Hello, welcome to Chapter 11, Revenue Management for Food and Beverage Services. In this chapter, we will review traditional menu pricing methods, possible shortcomings of focusing on the product cost when deciding menu prices, and also differential pricing factors in food service operations. Now, before we start, I wanted to focus on differences between lodging and food service industries from pricing perspective. If you recall from our earlier chapters, when we sell multiple rooms, say for example 10 or more rooms, guests usually contacts with the group sales department and seek some forms of discount. If the same guest goes to a restaurant, say for 10 people, most likely they won't be getting any discount and possibly they will pay additional service charge. Second example, I want to talk about demand-driven approach. You all know that when there is a high demand in lodging industry, that's the point of revenue management, right? The room price is going to be increased, or if you have a rack price, basically you are going to eliminate discount at least. Now, restaurant industry, on the other hand, charge same price regardless of demand. Considering this, we can say that their approach to pricing is definitely different than lodging industry. Now let us start with how restaurant industry traditionally handle their pricing, and we will focus on three general concepts. First one is the product cost percentage, second is the product cost plus, and the contribution margin. Now, we will start with product cost percentage. This is a method where price is determined by the product cost percentage. The product cost percentage pricing approach can be defended in two ways. First, the good food ingredients usually cost more, so in a sense, this approach reflects the customer's expectation, right? So let's say if you buy a steak, it will cost you more and you will also sell it more. But the customer's willingness to pay will also increase because it's steak. Second logical approach is related to main cost factors in restaurant industry. Let's not forget that. We have a food and beverage product cost, meaning how much we pay our products. We have to pay our employees, so labor cost, and all other expenses related to operating business, such as rent, utilities, marketing, napkins on the tables, etc. And finally, we have to make a profit. If any of the first three categories eats huge percentage of revenue, we could end up with little or no profit. So restaurateurs develop this pricing formula. We can use different wording for initial formula for single menu item pricing. If we take any food item, divide that to selling price, it gives us percentage of sale. Next, we do simple algebra to rearrange the formula. We change the selling price and item cost percentage. Now, this simple algebra now tells us that if we enter item cost and divide that to desired product cost, we can get selling price. For example, let us assume our steak costs $10 and our desired cost percentage is 25%. Then selling price is going to be $40. Okay, basically, right? You got $10 divided to 25% is going to give $40. Now you can also use pricing factors because usually multiplication is easier than dividing. For example, a factor for 25% is 4. Okay, which means we multiply the product cost with 4. Look at the example we just did. $10, right? 10 times factor 4 is 40. So you can check other examples in the book. The books and some of the examples here is the average, the generally used pricing cost factors. Now, product cost plus system, as the name implies, takes the product cost and adds a number of additional cost-related factors. One of the main reasons about this approach is beyond the product cost. there are additional costs needs to be considered, right? Such as labor is the most important one. Just to give you an example, in restaurant industry, both product and labor both different. Like both products cost about 25 to 35%, and also labor's cost about 25 to 35%. Okay. The next one is the contribution margin. Now, this idea is introduced because basically the contribution margin or profit is what is left after product cost is subtracted from its selling price. This method become popular because it helped the issue regarding cost percentage based pricing methods. Now, let us assume there are too many items with about same popularity, and item A is $20 with 30% food cost, and item B is $40 with 50% food cost. If I ask you, which food item sells better? Now you need to calculate first, which is item 1, item A, or whatever you call it, $20, and 30% cost means $6, and you achieve $14. And item B is $40, which 50% is $20 cost, you achieve $20. Now, using contribution margin, you can answer that directly because you take product cost and add contribution margin you want and get them in a price. Like giving the example earlier, that we say the product cost was $6, we want to get $14. Now we can say price is $20. We already talked many times in previous chapters considering cost as a major determinant in pricing decision is not a good approach if you remember the first several chapters. And it won't be a good revenue optimization strategy because once again, instead of focusing on buyer, we are approaching from seller side, right? Cost is basically considering seller side. So do you think buyers really care about your cost? Let us not forget failure rate is extremely high for restaurants. Mostly the time, the failure rate is extremely high due to bad pricing practices. Now let us follow the example from the book. The coffee shop sells pastries for $2.99, but cost of the ingredient increased, and assuming you follow cost-based pricing, you should also increase the price, right? Because you're following your cost increase, your price going to increase. You are following the cost-based pricing. In this example, to $3.29. Now, there are 4 alternatives going to be most likely, right? First, it is unlikely, but your customer is going to be increases to $2.50. Because of that, your revenue increase as well. I mean, you increase the price, the more people is going to come, and usually it doesn't make sense. But now, or your customers okay with the price change, and number of customers don't change, and your revenue increases again. Now, the first 2 scenarios good, right? Now, third scenario, because of your price increase, there is a decline on sale to 182. It gives the same revenue. The reason we selected 182 because it gives the exact same revenue. And last one, numbers decrease a lot, and your revenue decrease as well. So the last 2 scenarios most likely, unless you can justify your price increase, that will give a customer a value. So we repeat it many times, right? In lodging chapters, your customers indifferent to your costs, and it doesn't increase their perceived value. So you should do something to their perception of value. You need to increase their perception of value. Now, in chapter 4, we focused on differential pricing. We said that charging different prices to different buyers for the same or slightly different version of the same product is a powerful tool to optimize your revenue. Now, when we consider restaurant pricing issue, we need to understand the historical perspective. Now, in the past, I mean, it's not only in the past, but even right now, many restaurants has a printed menu and hold that price until some extraordinary change or new menu printed. So now we have all new technologies, tablets, menus, and point of sale system. But this set them and forget them approach to price is still dominant in the industry. Now, we already talked many times that if your major focus is on cost for pricing purpose, that is not a good strategy. Most likely losing strategy. Customers always pay for what they perceive as valuable. First, we need to understand that willingness to pay pricing concept we talked about many times is not well accepted in restaurant industry. So, following examples I'm going to talk about are just some ideas that could be beneficial to industry. Now, first question asks, can our many prices be higher on Friday and Saturday nights? Of course, we are assuming there is no restriction on how often or fast menu could be changed, right? Considering many restaurants has electronic tablets right now, it should be easy. So we can use same approach from lodging industry and come up with some sort of rack prices, considering people react negatively to price increase, but positively discounts. Do you remember that we talked about? So let's assume Friday and Saturday there is a high demand between 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. So we can discount the price before those times. Like, for example, if it's between 8 and 11 is very high demand, so other times we can discount prices. At those times we eliminate the discounts. So let's say if they arrive, say like after 8 o'clock. So we're already using some version of this time-based strategy, which we call happy hours at certain times or early bird specials such as lunch at 11 a.m., etc. Right? Now, so this is doable basically. Second question asks, can we offer special menu items that can be priced higher than other items on Friday and Saturday nights? Now, depending on the style and quality of operation, we can offer, say, special stack with additional items or sauce, like special stack sauce, special items added or how it's presented with increased price. Idea here is enhance the perception of value during a high demand time to bring more revenue. So it's doable. Now, question 3 is, can selected menu items be priced lower on Friday and Saturday night to increase their sales? When you think about it, it doesn't make sense to lower prices of items during high demand times, right? But you need to consider the issue of speed, how fast it's been served or eaten. Now, we don't always sell product at restaurants, but we also sell seating space. If you work in the restaurant industry, you know that some items prepared, served, or consumed faster than others. Considering total revenue comes from the price times the number of items sold, instead of price, you can try to increase the number of items sold. We also learned sometimes lowering prices bring more customers, especially if those are prepared and consumed in a shorter time. We can increase our turnover rate, right? Instead of people waiting for to be cooked and served and eating, let's take, I'm just making up, 30 minutes to prepare, 30 minutes is 1 hour. Now you are selling items that it can be prepared in 15 minutes and they consume in 15 minutes, 30 minutes total. So you cut the half time, right? You can increase double the seat time in a sense. So in a sense, we are lowering the price, but increasing the number sold and hoping we will get better revenue. Now, what is the question for? Can preferred seating be offered at higher prices? Okay, now we all know both in hotel industry and airlines, we have a preferred rooms or seats that catch better prices. Now, this approach, let's say in hotel industry, provide low cost rooms, but at the same time, we have upgraded rooms such as ocean views, larger size, etc. So if we pitch the idea to restaurants industry, they might not accept it. However, people willing to pay for better seats or not, they don't want to wait in the line, could generate revenue. That way more cost conscious people might get discount, for example, right? And finally, in question 5, how could our yield be improved? If we are not willing to play with prices too often, we need to increase the people served, like similar to we talked about in a few minutes ago. It could be achieved by offering possibility of delivery, pickup, or driving through options. In addition, optimizing tables, right, where we utilize number and capacities of various tables could impact our table turns. So what is the table turns? Is basically number of guest servers divided by the number of available seats. Now, while we are talking about implementing differential pricing strategies, we already talked about factors used by service industries, right? Previous in chapters like customer characteristic, location, time, quantity, distribution channels, product version, bundling, payment terms. So, in addition to those more traditional factors, we need to understand that food service operation have more unique characteristics from operation to operation. But these factors could be good idea to think about for revenue management strategies, right? So first one is the competition. So we definitely need to follow our competitor prices, but depending on the scale of operation, lower price approach might not be the best choice. It could be better sometimes to have higher prices to influence higher quality perception. So of course, we are assuming that you can deliver that quality of higher price perception. The second thing is the service levels or delivery format. This is an important factor. Now, I don't probably need to explain this concept to you because you are working in service industry. If I go to say burger joint and got burger and soda, price of those food will be most likely will be tripled if I'm ordering similar products at the upscale restaurant, because we sometimes pay for convenience and just eat and go to our day, but sometimes we pay for the experience, and that is determined usually by service levels and delivery format, right? So what about the guest types that's going to affect the value perception? We need to understand and deliver depending on our guests. We have a variety of guest types. It could be income level, it could be how fast they want to be served, it could be, say, a couple seeking a romantic dinner. So people seek value, and it could come from price, speed, environment, etc. So you need to understand your guests and what do they seek or perceive as a value. So we need to understand them basically. Product quality. First, we always assume all the products we serve to people has a certain level of quality and safety, right? I mean, we are not gonna give them like a spoiled meat or something, right? It has a certain level of expectation in quality and safety. However, considering majority of restaurants buy their products mostly from similar vendors, unless they are serving some special products, let's say we buy a ground beef to make a burger, right? The same burger in an average restaurant will come in a fast manner with regular bun, most likely will cost 2-3 times more. In an upscale restaurant, like similar to service levels delivery format we were talking about in a minute ago. Now, but what do they do in the upscale restaurants? Like they can do the open flame grill burger and serve it, say, avocado slices or whole grain bun, right? Of course, there is some increase in the input of the price because we are using slightly different items, but does it justify the 2-3 times price increase? Once again, how it is served, ambience wise and service level will increase the perceived product quality. That is why we price them accordingly. So these are let's not forget, these are the factors affecting value perceptions, right? So for how you serve, basically, it's gonna look like $1 million burger in essence. Now, portion size. Now, we have a thinking that larger the portion size is better. This is a form of product versioning. However, this outdated approach can lead to waste, increased food cost, and unhealthy eating habits for our guests. Especially food waste becoming a major issue, not only financially, but it is also wrong thing to do, right? I mean, there are many people who is not able to find food all around the world. So food waste is, I think, is a huge issue in my opinion. But anyway, There are many ways chefs could utilize the space and presentation techniques to reduce all this waste while not decreasing their perception of size in the process. Now, I mean, if you are working in the industry, like when you put the certain items in the certain size of dish, look like exactly the same item in the different kind of dish, right? So if you work in the industry, you already know some of these things I'm talking. Now, just to clarify though, idea here is not totally lowering the portion size, but the finding the optimum quantity. So people's gonna get a good perception, they're gonna eat well, but they're not gonna waste as well. Now, next thing is the ambience. Ambience is the feeling, character, or mood associated with the specific location. Now, I will be repeating the same thing again, but if the idea is only eliminating hunger, there are many lower cost alternatives. There are many reasons people goes out and eat, but ambience definitely affect their choice. While ambience is important, let us not forget ambience might affect the people's choice first time, but quality of the product and service will bring them back. Now, meal period. We all know that we pay different prices for lunch and dinner. Some of the price changes related to portion size, but overall, food and service levels are about the same. Food service operations should be able to assess and explain why this difference is there and how affect their guest satisfaction. Now, location is also an important part of any kind of business, right? Location could be both beneficial or harmful. If you're in a prime location and with little location, I mean, if you are prime location, you're gonna be very successful, and your prices is going to be also successful. But if you're in the not very desirable part of the town, so it's not gonna be your value of perception is not going to be the same, right? Now, next is actually related to this picture as well. Image is something takes time but affects the price. Image could be such as like friendliness, cleanliness, etc. But also it might reflect the image on you because you are buying from that place. Now, while we have McDonald's in every corner in the United States, right, and also, I mean, we don't really consider McDonald's as a high-scale place. But look at this picture. This is a picture from when they opened in Russia. People were waiting online for days because it had a strong image, like freedom, American image. Think about why you buy certain brands. Sometimes maybe quality, sometimes because of the name. Like, for example, I know a sandwich place is well known for crazy fast orders. These are some of the things. Okay, let's talk about the sales mix. Sales mix. Last thing, this is the sales mix factors affecting value perception. Think about it for a second. In a hotel room, there could be few choices, but food service might have 1,000 different meal combinations. When we say menu mix or sales mix, we are talking about variety of food and beverage products ordered during selected time. Okay? The combination of those sales mix could give you a check average. It's calculated by dividing total revenue to how many guests served. Usually, it is used during certain times. For example, check average during lunch. Okay. Now, best revenue managers in food service operations are the ones handle the process of pricing food and beverage items with different cost ratios in a way that optimizes the revenue. That's what we call the price blending. For example, you utilized unblended pricing approach and used food cost all the same. Okay, in these examples, like we say 40%. If you look at this table, even without being a student in this class, you might realize price for French fries and soda is very low. In this scenario, we will also assume your competitor's price for burger is cheaper. Normally, when you go to burger joint, you buy burger, fries, and soda. However, burger price seems very high. Let's not forget. I mean, like, we assume that competitors selling cheaper, say around 250. And when the people come, they look at the soda and fries is cheaper, but the burger is expensive. Even if they buy, most likely they're gonna buy a lot of soda and fries, but not burger. And it will create a big problem for business because majority of your money comes from high selling price, right? So if we do blended approach, we will lower the price of a burger, but balance it out with soda and fries. So the expectation, once again, of course, you need to know the expectation on the street for whatever you are selling, right? So from customer perspective, price of a burger is comparable to competitors. Our example was 250. And fries and soda is also similar to others. This is a basic example, but using analytical approach, knowing your customers, which item goes with what, and blending the prices could benefit your business. Of course, you should you should also always monitor the sales and menu mix, what people buy, and what kind of items goes with each other. And if there is some changes, you need to be sure to adjust the prices as needed. However, menu mix also could create problem. Let's say, in our example, we lowered the price of burger, assuming people almost always buy soda and fries with it. What if they don't? What if it doesn't work and people buy many burgers and few soda and fries? So the idea here is, once again, the reason we did this kind of blended approach, because we are assuming you know your customers and you know that people usually buy this kind of items, giving those kind of prices. So I think the idea here is that you should understand the importance of monitoring and adjusting the prices as needed, and understanding the blended prices as well. So this is some of the also example the revenue management used in the food and service industry. Thank you for watching.